the internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
What is the Popeyes Challenge Cup? The Popeyes Challenge Cup is Jamaica's newest and boldest football competition, featuring David versus Goliath matchups as the best of the best in the country's club football take on those in the second tier of club football. It's a straight knockout competition featuring 25 teams, 7 from the Jamaica Premier League and 18 from the Jamaica Football Championship, the second tier. The 7 JPL teams are invited and are ranked based on their finish in the current season, as they will not enter the competition until after being eliminated from the JPL playoffs. The JFC team seedings are determined based on their rankings in the league as at May 2. Teams will battle it out over 6 rounds to determine the winner. So how does it work? Round 1, the play-in, will feature 14 teams, all from the Jamaica Football Championship. Pot 1 will have 5th to 10th place teams, and Pot 2 will have teams seeded 11th to 18th. Round 2 will have 8 JFC teams, the 7 Round 1 winners, and the 4th ranked JFC team. Pot 1 will have the top 4 ranked JFC teams, and Pot 2 will have the next 4 remaining teams. Round 3 features 6 JFC teams, 4 winners from Round 2, and the 2nd and 3rd place teams, and 6 JPL teams will enter the competition, excluding the JPL champion. Pot 1 will have the top 3 ranked from both JPL and JFC, and Pot 2 will have the others. The next round is the quarterfinals, featuring the 6 winners from Round 3, the JPL champion, and the 1st place from the JFC. It will be a random draw with no pots. Teams then proceed to the semi-finals and the final. Each team will get prize money based on how far they advance in the tournament. A total of $4.75 million in prize money will be paid out, with the winning team taking home $1 million. There's also a $50,000 purse for the top goal scorer and the winning coach. Get ready for the newest and boldest club football competition in Jamaica. This is David versus Goliath. This is the Popeyes Challenge Cup on CVM TV.
Tonight, fair inside Jamaica's schools. Multiple fights at St. Elizabeth Technical High School. Threats directed at Stella Maris Preparatory. Concerns after the death of an Ocho Rios High School student. And questions tonight about whether violence is now disrupting education itself. Then, Hanta virus fears growing across the region and internationally. What exactly is this virus? How does it spread? And should Jamaicans be concerned? Tonight, we focus on the science, not the panic. And later on in the show, we take a look at amazing groups who are doing work to protect and save Jamaican citizens, making sure that our children, even during this time, are better off. Community Action, Touch 1,000 Hearts initiative, working to support vulnerable children here on the island. And we're reminding you of what's coming up on Sunday, because with Mother's Day on Sunday, we'll also take a moment throughout the show to remind you of what exactly you are looking at as women all across the country hold families together through difficult times. I'm Jody Ann Quarry, and this is Lead Story. Over the past several days, there's been growing concern about violence inside and now directed towards Jamaica's schools. St. Elizabeth Technical High School has been dealing with multiple fights on its compound. There have been concerns surrounding incidents involving students from other schools. And at Stella Maris Preparatory, threats circulated online were taken so seriously that some parents kept their children at home today. The major organized crime and anti-corruption agency, MOCA, is now involved in that matter. All of this, though, is against a backdrop of continuing national concern following the death of an Ocho Rios high school student, as well as other students, including those in St. Thomas. Those incidents have gone viral online as well. So, tonight, are we looking at isolated incidents? Or is there something broader and perhaps more insidious happening inside our schools, to our schools, and among young people? Joining us now is Linvern Wright, president of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools and principal of an illustrious high school himself, William Need Memorial High School. President Wright, thanks so much for joining us inside Lead Story.
Good evening, Jordan, and good evening, listeners.
It's a sober conversation today. How concerned right now are principals that school violence is moving beyond ordinary to extraordinary at this point in time, with violence not only inside the schools being so serious as to lead to their closure and them reverting to online schooling, but now violence directed towards the schools themselves?
Well, principals have always been concerned about society and the kind of context it creates for what we try to do. Because one of the things that you really need for education to go well is social stability. And for years, I don't think we've had the kind of social stability that we need. It has a lot to do with families. It has a lot to do with many of our social institutions, having been degraded, over time, or churches or families, all of those things that surrounds us. And as such, schools kind of become that cauldron that absorbs everything about society that's not okay. I think there are so many people who think that it is really easy being inside of a classroom. A teacher deals with 200 students on average per day in a high school, for example. And there are significant levels of dysfunctionality among students that we have to deal with, and not having the kind of resources to treat with many of the issues that many of these children will have. And there are going to be days like you have at states, like you may have in some other schools. And in many instances, you could do your very best as a principal to ensure that you have systems in place to ensure that these will not happen. But there are going to be children who are triggered by different things, and maybe the triggers happen in the way it happened at states, where a number of things conflict to get all of these things happening, and it looks the way it does. But I think we just have work to do, and we'll always have work to do as long as our social structures continue to degenerate in the way they have been. And I don't think that we have spent enough time dealing with many of the issues that can assist in helping us to restore what it is with the stable minds and stable hearts.
Stable minds and stable hearts are going to be important. But as Jamaicans look at school violence becoming so serious as to lead to the shutdown of a school, they're even more concerned. Not about the road to getting back to a place that is perhaps safer for our children, but how to make that possible right now. Because STETS, St. Elizabeth Technical High School, had to suspend physical classes because not the weather, not rain, but because of an emergency. Multiple fights on campus, one allegedly involving a knife. Principal Keith Wellington issued an advisory to parents saying all students needed to stay at home, citing the need to protect safety and maintain discipline. When it becomes so bad in school that the school says stay home, that for teachers and for persons watching on the outside is even more serious. What do we then do watching a situation like that?
I think we have to just understand what the school is doing. I think, you see many people sometimes see suspensions as really just stopping a child from getting his or her education. It's not about that. It is about suspending the tension. It's about suspending the rising feelings of aggression that really could be. It's about suspending reprisals. And in many, many instances, you get that in the way. Because it is Jamaica, We are not spending enough time to think of things like so-so. We are not thinking and looking at things like states of emergency, what those things do. They provide a kind of hiatus that gives the society a chance to breathe and think through these things. What has happened in schools is that in many instances when things happen at schools, we just figure that things ought to go on just the same. There are so many things that are happening now, hurricanes and that sort of thing, and we're saying school ought to go on. In so many instances, we don't really try to see what has happened with both teachers and students in terms of having to deal with this cauldron. Very few workplaces and workspaces have that kind of pressure to deal with, where after people having gone through the kind of traumas they go through, we expect them to be in the same space, with the same resources, with the same people, with the same kind of training to deal with a new kind of phenomenon in terms of what is happening in the children's mind, in terms of adjusting to their lives outside of school. And this is no excuse. The fact is that I think schools have been the only places in terms of social spaces in our society that really have not had any serious or significant increase in resources to deal with the increased issues that we're faced with daily.
Those are increased issues inside your school, Linvern, right? Ones that we have as a nation been aware of, though you would argue aren't taking us seriously and not committing resources quickly enough to do that. But another institution today had some of its student cohort not show up because the parents made a decision after threats had been directed to Stella Maris, a preparatory institution. These are tiny children, primary school children, and they didn't go to school today because of threats now directed at the institution, and parents and guardians said they weren't about to hear something while they were at work about their children, because this threat now is so serious. MOCA is involved. Threats inside and threats outside, what does that mean?
There are spaces in the country that people don't go. We have communities in the country that people. There are people who want to shop in certain spaces in Jamaica that they really just don't want to go to those spaces. It's a phenomenon in Jamaica, where one of the things that's happening is that there are many places. Schools operate within a society that has a certain kind of context. Violence is an organic thing. It is not something that's about school or it's about just one community. What we have been doing is that we have been compartmentalizing violence to say that it belongs to this community or it belongs to that school. It's a confluence of different things that actually cause these things to happen. I don't think we're paying sufficient attention to it. And I think a significant mistake that we're making is that if it happens in a particular community, we say, okay, that's a phenomenon of that community, and we sort of cordon it off. But there are social factors outside that actually cause many of these things. It's the same thing with the school. The school is there as a space. What we have are children coming from different communities, and the truth is that most of the kinds of behaviors that many of these children have developed, it is schools that really try their best to ensure that they get these children to calm down on many of these things.
And schools that you have said that are under-resourced have teachers and principals, administrators who are dealing with work environments that most Jamaicans cannot even conceive of and still show up to do this every single day. You just celebrated Teachers' Day. The reality of this week, though, is that teachers and principals continue to be on the front lines. Linvern Wright, that's all the time we have today. As principal of William Ned Moran High School and president of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools. Thank you so much for joining us and helping us better appreciate just the stress that teachers and principals have to deal with.
Thanks, Jody. Take care.
All right, we'll take a break. Mother's Day is coming up on Sunday. I have to remind you, many families are also thinking about how to support and appreciate the women holding households together through very difficult times. See, that's a little reminder there, but we talk about a virus that might remind you of COVID-19 next.
Unemployment rate has fallen to 3.3%, down from 13.2% in 2016. Our government's continued focus on job creation is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is...
Hey, what's up, boy?
Hi, I am Kendi Pang.
What a guan?
What's a guan?
That's a guan, pa.
What a guan? What a guan?
What a guan? Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
That's a guan, pa. What a guan? I'm me the stylist, no scammer, no style me.
From the market to the farm to the office, money talk is everywhere. But are you making sense or nonsense? The Bank of Jamaica brings you common sense with BOJ. Real stories, real laughs, and real lessons to help you protect, grow, and manage your money. Mattress savings.
At least my mattress. You charge me to sleep on it.
Partner plan.
Remember last year we needed our payouts early? But Miss Pam gave it to her cousin first.
Or a sketchy loan flyer.
Electrifying deals.
See why making the right financial choices is pure common sense. Brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, empowering everyday Jamaicans one episode at a time.
Grandpa, it's 2026. You can't keep hiding all your money in every single pocket forever.
As concerns grow internationally about hantavirus, particularly the rare Andean strain capable of human-to-human transmission, tonight we want to focus on the science, not the drama. What exactly is the virus? How does it spread? And how concerned should you realistically be? Reports of cases or monitoring activities in parts of the region and the United States have generated public attention, particularly given the trauma many people still associate with COVID-19 and the pandemic. The Ministry of Health would ultimately speak to any official response measures, but tonight our focus is strictly on understanding the science itself. Joining us now is Dr. Tiffany Butterfield, medical researcher and lecturer specializing in microbiology and immunology at the University of the West Indies. Good evening, Dr. Butterfield, and thanks so much for joining us.
Good evening, Jody, and thank you for having me.
Dr. Butterfield, people have been watching the news, especially 24-hour news stations, and have watched this. They've watched the World Health Organization yesterday confirm 8 cases and 3 deaths linked to a single cruise ship, the MV Hondius, currently sailing from Cape Verde to Tenerife. They're watching this and they're saying, I watched this movie in 2020. I don't want to see it again. So, help us see if it's a different movie. What exactly is hantavirus?
All right. I understand some of the fears and trepidations that people may have, but let us first understand the virus itself. An RNA virus, one of the similarities to coronavirus, viruses like flu.
Dr. Butterfield, you're breaking up. So a moment ago you said to us, Dr. Butterfield, a moment ago we weren't able to hear you so clearly. You were breaking up. And so you said it was similar to COVID-19. Then people at home didn't hear why you said it was similar. And now they're having a panic attack. Walk us through once again what kind of virus it is and what that means for us as we talk about spread.
Okay, so it's an RNA virus. So that is where the similarities start and somewhat end, because then the virus now will be transmitted specifically from the rat, which is the host of the virus, in their saliva, in their excrements, and in their urine. And it is in contact with this that we as humans are more likely to get hantavirus. So that is where the transmission begins. It is a true zoonotic infection where the rat is the main host.
So the zoonotic part means an animal or a small thing is now the reason that we as humans get it.
Yes, so zoonotic means it's coming from an animal. The animal is a true host of the pathogen, the virus in this case.
When you look at that, though, for many Jamaicans, they're looking and saying, that's gross. We're not having contacts with rats generally. If we do hear about rats infecting individuals, it's often in the context of leptospirosis. But we are looking at a strain that we've watched on 24-hour stations, the Andean strain of the virus, a form of hantavirus that is endemic to South America and holds a distinction of being the only hantavirus strain known to spread not just from rat to human, but now from human to human. That sounds scary. That sounds still like COVID. Help us better understand what this particular strain of the virus looks like and what it means.
So in terms of the Andean strain, why it is so important and why it signaled such a response is, as you rightly said, it is the only strain that has shown very limited human-to-human transmission. But what is unique and important to understand is that this human-to-human transmission is for prolonged close contact. So most of those cases are persons who are living in the same homes, were sharing, so saliva got shared between them and they had prolonged contact. So the idea is that it's not as efficient as other viruses that we may know in moving from human to human, where we know if we cough, sometimes those droplets may have the virus in those droplets. It's less efficient in that way, and that is why there's been limited reports of human to human transmission. But still, those reports do point us to ensure that we stay vigilant and keep monitoring what's happening on that cruise ship.
Limited reports of that, but we did watch MV Honduras now with people on a cruise ship. It's been now referred to as a petri dish of germs because of the outbreaks that we heard of COVID-19 and now the outbreak that we're hearing of the hantavirus. These had people in close contact. And now reports that individuals, because of that prolonged close contact, would have now spread this virus from person to person. The WHO, the World Health Organization Director General, though, has made it very clear this is not COVID-19. Why is there a difference? You see that Dr. Gabriel Seuss sees as well, that says, you know what, I know it reminds you of COVID, but we wouldn't be looking at that sort of rapid spread around the world in the way that we saw that in 2020.
It is really to the biology of the virus. The virus is just not as efficient in being transmitted from human to human as these other viruses. So we can speak of COVID, but we also know flu and we also know measles. These have very high transmissibility, while for the hantavirus, it really has very low transmissibility. But what is very important is the fact that these persons were on a cruise ship. And as you rightfully said, a cruise ship, prolonged close contact. So that is why there's such close monitoring of all the persons that were on that ship to ensure that we keep monitoring them to ensure that they are not infected, because they did have a high risk just by being in that close prolonged setting with persons who have been confirmed to have the virus. And so one of the main other things is that there's a long period where we can see symptoms, so up to as much as 8 weeks. And so we have to keep the monitoring going until that time has passed.
We have to keep the monitoring up, but we're hearing more and more reports of cases. That is what is concerning individuals right now. So far, we have heard that 2 people who died were a Dutch couple and a German national, passengers on board the MV Honduras. Passengers from 12 countries were on board, including a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. Contact tracing is now underway across multiple jurisdictions, and today New Jersey said that 2 persons who are resident in that state might also have this virus. Though you've spoken about it being limited, we are seeing it pop up now in various places. Jamaicans travel often, people come here often. That sort of importation of spread that we saw during COVID-19 is now on the minds of individuals. How realistic is that for individuals to then say, okay, maybe our ports or airports could now be places where this shows up?
So I would direct my attention to the Ministry of Health. They are tasked with the surveillance, the vigilance, the monitoring of these ports to ensure that they're able to quickly catch any possible cases. So to be realistic, the fact that persons did leave the ship, did go to their areas, did travel in planes, there is a likelihood or a possibility of transmission. What I think is coming out and what we think we need to kind of gear ourselves to think about is that while we say transmission is low and we say risk is low, we still need to be vigilant as well. We don't anticipate it will reach to the levels because we know the biology, but also there are a lot of questions that they're still doing investigations on right now that would help us to get a little bit more confidence and information to guide what is happening. So looking at where the first couple actually got exposure, looking at what kind of transmission dynamics was happening on the ship
we've heard, for example, that the Dutch couple decided that they wanted to visit a landfill as part of their vacation plans. A landfill is often a place that might have rats on there, making that a possible place for contamination. It's also incredibly deadly with a 30 to 40% fatality rate. Do those sorts of things mean then that it kills you faster than it can spread, so that also will limit the ability for it to spread as we watch and do more contact tracing?
That is something to consider, but generally speaking, what I see coming out and what we see in the science is once we have early detection and early medical intervention, there is a good chance of, ensuring that we reduce the fatality rate, so to speak. Why, again, this strain is the one that is more concerning is because it is the one that seems to have a higher fatality rate than the other strains, because it really does lead to severe respiratory distress. So if we think about how important it is for our lungs to do their work, the fact that this strain really does affect the lungs is one of the major implications that is leading to some of the fatality issues that we're seeing. But we can think that once they do the continuous studies, while we do appreciate that the chance of exposure at the landfills may have been, we still need the science to come in and give us the conclusive evidence that we can use to really understand. So I'm looking at the World Health Organization myself to see what reports are coming out. They have been very good in terms of when they send these reports out, and I'm thinking we'll get the answers to a number of these questions so we can allay some of those fears a little bit more once we have those specific questions answered.
As you close with us, give us a sense of what these symptoms are that people would be looking out for, especially, as I said, we're more familiar with leptospirosis. Is it similar? Is it different? And then just a closing word from you to calm and allay the fears of individuals who feel that this is going to be at their doorstep tomorrow.
So in terms of symptoms, one of the issues, and I think it's across the board, is that the symptoms are sometimes non-specific. So we have the fever, the aches, some respiratory distress. There is some gastrointestinal, so some diarrhea and some vomiting. But the key here is once you have those symptoms in alignment with exposure risk is when you start having the clear suspicion of cases. And in just terms of understanding where to stand and where to think, you just have to be vigilant yourself. Proper hygiene practices, ensuring you're not putting yourself around persons who are visibly ill. If we wear masks, we might have to put those back on, but it is in your best interest. We will listen to what our Ministry of Health indicates to us. They have the tools and they're ready and they're vigilant. If it's one thing that we have learned through the trauma is to make sure that we increase vigilance, because early detection, early testing, early medical intervention will stem the tide before it even becomes that big of a problem that we saw a couple of years ago.
And I think that for many people allows them to feel a lot better, having heard from you on this particular issue. Dr. Tiffany Butterfield helping us with hantavirus, making sure that we don't panic in memory of COVID-19 as a medical researcher and lecturer specializing in microbiology and immunology at the University of the West Indies. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Public safety is not only about violence, though, or viruses. It's about whether the systems people use every day, including our roads, actually work. We'll talk about that next.
Jamaica. Make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
Hey, what a one?
Hi, I am Candy Pang and
What a guan? What a guan?
That's a guan pa.
What a one? What a one?
What a One. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
And that's a one for what a one?
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
I'm me, the stylist, no scam and style me.
From the market to the farm to the office, money talk is everywhere. But are you making sense or nonsense? The Bank of Jamaica brings you common sense with BOJ. Real stories, real laughs, and real lessons to help you protect, grow, and manage your money. Mattress savings,
At least my mattress, no charge me to sleep on it.
partner plan,
Remember last year we needed our payouts early? But Miss Pam gave it to her cousin first.
or a sketchy loan flyer.
Electrifying deals.
See why making the right financial choices is pure common sense. Brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, empowering everyday Jamaicans one episode at a time.
Grandpa, it's 2026. You can't keep hiding all your money in every single pocket forever.
There have been growing complaints across Jamaica about the condition of road surfaces. Potholes, damaged shoulders, uneven repairs, and the effect that those conditions are having, not only on vehicles, but also on driver behavior. Motorists have described swerving suddenly to avoid damage, changing lanes abruptly, or braking hard to protect their vehicles. So, tonight, can Jamaica realistically talk about a safe road system when the roads themselves are becoming a hazard? Joining us now via phone is Dr. Lucian Jones, Vice Chairman of the National Road Safety Council. Good evening, Dr. Jones, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, and with your
Dr. Jones, you often speak to us in the context of tragedy, how it is that individuals lose their lives or injure themselves on our roads. But how much of a road safety issue have poor road surfaces now become?
It has always been a big issue. We always speak about this system approach to road safety. And there are two big ones in that part area: safe speeds and safe roads. About 2 years ago, the police system, Assistant Commissioner across Jamaica, and did a survey of the road markings, road signs that were missing or inspected, and submitted it to National Road Agency for redress. And it took us long time to take care. So we have problems not only with road, but with road markings missing, road signage missing, and it is a recipe for disaster. Roads, especially on roads which are even on the highway, we don't like the footpath. So drivers have a great problem with road surface and with lack of road markings and signage. Warn you at the appropriate time. So we have heard of crashes taking place because of potholes on road. More famously, the one in the of Melissa, where a lady and two passengers died. So that's fresh in our mind.
Dr. Jones, given then that you've said that this is a long-standing issue and the poor road surfaces are parts of what makes driving on our roads unsafe, especially, as you said, in areas where higher speeds are permitted, like on highways, how responsible should the state be when drivers have to swerve or brake hard to avoid potholes? Because doing that, many drivers argue, is what increases their crash risk as they make their way along the roads.
So here's the challenge. There's an organization called IRA, International Road Assessment Program, which is funded by a global charity. The World Health Organization has mandated all countries to ensure that they have at least what is called a 2-star quality road. So the best quality is 5-star, the worst quality is 1-star. Last year, Arab came to Jamaica. They did a survey. The report is to be released shortly. So we'll soon know in Jamaica what quality of road we have on average.
So hold on, help us, Dr. Jones. Good. Is 1-star a bad road and 5-star a great road?
A 1-star is a bad road. A 2-star is better. 3-star is what we're aiming for. A minimum of 3-star.
There are Jamaicans watching right now saying they could tell IRAP this answer. 2-star roads in some areas that are the nicer ones, 1-star roads in many other areas with potholes being generated every single day. You, though, have advocated for a safe system model for road safety, and that requires a certain standard of road quality to function properly. If IRAP says to us that we're at level 2, level 1, or we just have fewer level 3 than we should, what's the next step?
Okay, so that's a great question. Because you can't set a policy or construct policy based on hearsay. You have to have data. So what Aaron does is tell you what policy you have and tell you what it's going to cost you to bring your road network up to that policy. And then the country has to decide. We can afford it. So our rolling out of this is to ensure that the government accepts what is recommended by Arab and accepts this as possible. Because poor road markings, access signage will lead to more interest and death around in our roads. And nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
No, nobody wants anybody to die on a road. No, absolutely not. Including the government.
Well, Nobody wants that, but that's why the government has put in place programs including the SPARK program, Shared Prosperity through Accelerated Improvement to our road network. And it was described at the time as the most ambitious road rehabilitation program in Jamaica's history, but it still didn't go after fixing all of our roads. Experts have estimated that sustainably fixing Jamaica's road network would require between 100 and 200 billion dollars, the equivalent of 4 to 5 SPARK programs. I just don't see Jamaica having that kind of money, Dr. Jones.
Well, that's why you have to be there. That's why you have the National Road Safety Council. So once we get the information from the Ministry of Transport and the Traffic Authority, we're having a meeting with the Prime Minister. As much as we're going on the agenda. So once we know what is going to happen, then we can speak directly to the policymakers to ensure that we have proper rules.
You're having that conversation with the Prime Minister because you sit as Vice Chair of the National Road Safety Council, but the Prime Minister sits as Chair of the National Road Safety Council. Jamaica is welcoming now the largest single tranche of funds ever in our history to be received under the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, NARA. Is there any awareness that you have of NARA perhaps looking at the road network and seeing if there can be improvements on the road network, especially in the western end of Jamaica?
I don't know the full parameters of what the Arab is all about. But I do know that what is recommended by Arab, we are going to advocate to make sure the pump down space over certain areas that restore reduction of crashes, injuries, and deaths on the road. NARA is part of that plan. Well, thank God for NARA. But I don't know, I can't say at this point in time that that's part of NARA's plan. I don't know.
Dr. Jones, before we go, drivers still have to go on these roads with potholes tomorrow. What would you want motorists to understand about defensive driving under these conditions?
If you slow down, you can't deal with most problems on the road. The largest single problem right now that you are driving at excessive speed. Then if you slow down, and the data is very clear after the time and time again, a 5% reduction in average speed can translate into a 6% reduction in fatalities in this country. We need to slow down. When going about our business really quickly. And that's why we are hoping for the full rollout of the function and provision, including the Wi-Fi system. That's why I'm hoping to have cameras to detect function. Once we get the tools, once we get the technology going, and the police have all the tools to prevent it, we can get significant reduction. But people have also to create themselves.
They
have
also
to take
personal responsibility, yes, but you're also talking about those systems that are in our law that are yet to come fully on board that can help support those things as well.
And if you know, then you get punished by having your license suspended, getting tickets and
so putting things in place then that allow for dangerous drivers to not continue to be on our road as well. Dr. Lucian Jones, you're driving, and I want you to continue to stay safe. Thank you so much for joining us by phone as Vice Chairman of the National Road Safety Council. Thanks for joining us inside Lead Story. Dr. Jones made reference to NARA. Well, that bill is currently before the Senate as we speak. They're still having discussions on that piece of legislation. We'll give you the latest on that when we can. But up next, a heartwarming story, because I told you it was Mother's Day on Monday. But before that, we are going to be looking at what some are doing to save our children now. Stay with us.
Watagwan. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
I'm me the stylist, no scammer, no style me.
From the market to the farm to the office, money talk is everywhere. But are you making sense or nonsense? The Bank of Jamaica brings you common sense with BOJ. Real stories, real laughs, and real lessons to help you protect, grow, and manage your money. Mattress savings.
At least my mattress, no charge me to sleep on it.
Partner plan.
Remember last year we needed our payouts early? But Miss Pam gave it to her cousin first.
Or a sketchy loan flyer.
Electrifying deals.
See why making the right financial choices is pure common sense. Brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, empowering everyday Jamaicans one episode at a time.
Grandpa, it's 2026. You can't keep hiding all your money in every single pocket forever.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more.
We spent much of tonight examining fear, strain, and public anxiety. But there are also people across this country trying to prevent children from falling through the cracks. The Touch a Thousand, not even one, a Thousand Hearts initiative has been working to support vulnerable children through educational assistance, including stationery kits, school supplies, and community support. The initiative has assisted more than, not one heart, but 2,700 children across 34 schools since 2021. Joining us now on set, in studio, live here, are Shernette Auld, the founder and director of Ald's Academy and Charity Foundation, and Alicia Henry Wright, accounting manager with the foundation. Lovely ladies, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
So important to have you both with us here. Incredible work needs to be highlighted and spotlighted, but at a time like this, when so many are under strain, you have said, we're not pushing back. We're not deciding that we can't tell everybody nothing can happen this year. So let me start off first with you, Shernette, because you've started Ald's Academy and its charity foundation, and you said, let me touch 1,000 hearts. Explain why you felt that was even necessary.
You know what, to be honest with you, I've always had this love for children and assisting children, and I would have gone back to my school in Christian Elise. That's my primary school in Christian Elise in Manchester, and I would have helped some children there. Maybe at that time it was about 150 children. And then, you know what, I said, maybe I need to do this on a larger scale. So I spoke with a past student of mine, Kimiko Williams, and she said, you know what, miss, I think you should name, if you're going to have an initiative, I think you should name it Touch 1,000 Hearts. I said, Kimiko, 1,000? She said, yes, miss. And so I took on the challenge, and here we are today. trying to touch 1,000 hearts each year.
Not only trying to touch 1,000 hearts, you passed 1,000 because you have already helped more than 2,700 children across 34 schools in Jamaica. What have you learned about the kind of need that exists?
You know what? It's so funny. Each year we do this initiative. So the 2,700 students would have been over the last 4 years. And what we have found each year is that when we get these academic care packages out to the vulnerable children in these schools, the need, we realize, is so great because you always find the teachers asking us, if we're going to come back next year, with more packages for the children. So you find that the need really is there. I mean, they always say to us, no matter how small it is, we'll take it. The children, they need it, and the parents are grateful because it does help. It does fill a gap, for them in terms of putting together the school supplies for the children to send them out.
Let me pull in Shernet to hear your accounting manager there at the foundation, Alicia Henry Wright. Yes. She's beside you. She's also part of this initiative that you have here. Help us understand, from your vantage point, Alicia, how much harder has it become for those families to manage the basic school expenses? Because 2021 was a rough year for you to have started. I don't suppose things for some families might have become easier. When you look at how are families now trying to make it through?
It's very difficult for those families, and I must also point out that when we touched those 2,700 students, we also touched the lives of their parents and their siblings that would have also been affected advantageously, of course, by the help that they've received, because where we were able to fill a gap, then that would have enabled them to help other children in the family as well with the meager resources. And we really do appreciate that, and we know that it hasn't been easy, especially since we have been able, through our partnership with the National Educational Trust, to go out to schools that are forgotten, are in the rural communities, are off the beaten path. And we're able to really give them not just simple stationery and books and stuff, but also a start to the new year, and hope just to go on that much further. So it's really a wonderful thing that we've been able to help persons like this.
Alicia, it's wonderful to be able to help them, but we have you on the show on Friday, May 8th. That date is important because you have a cutoff time, a time where you want people to come and contribute and support as you're putting together more kits. You've assembled 1,000 stationary kits, but you need more. You need notebooks and bags before the next deadline of May 16. Alicia, how critical is that resource gap right now, and what do you need to close it?
So, hands down, what we need right now are 3,000 notebooks, because we've started to put these packages together because we have a tight deadline. We want to hand over the care packages, the academic care packages, to these schools. So what we want is for persons to come in, assist us with this book drive, and give us these notebooks that we need to complete the packages.
3,000 notebooks.
3,000.
You want a small exercise book, you want bendy books, you want hardcover books, you want spiral books. What kind of books you're looking for?
Guess what? We typically would like hardcover books because these are young children and we want them to be durable and last. But at this point in time, we are going to say to you, look here, bring the books, bring the spiral books, bring the hardcover books, bring the bendy books. What we will do is package them in such a way that we will give it based on the book to the relevant age range. So we're going to high schools this year. They can use the spiral books. We're going to basic schools and primary. They can use the hardcover ones. So we are saying we're not limiting nothing. Come with the things that we would take them and package them same way.
Shernet, we are getting you those 3,000 books. We're making sure that you can get that commitment from the people watching right now. They're looking at you and they're saying, all right, this sounds sweet. How lovely. You put together the things. You're not coming to me with the first, you don't have the first pencil. You've already put together things.
Something
but you have a deadline, May 16, to get the second set of things out. How do they get to you to either send books that they have purchased or say to you, you go ahead and buy the books. I don't know where to find the books that you think are best. Let me send some money to you. How do they support you, Shernet?
So if a person want to contribute notebooks, they can reach out to us. Our phone number is 876-442-1487.
442-1487. 876-442-1487. And that allows them to reach you. Do you have an email address that they can reach out to you as well?
Yes, our email address is auldsacademy@aacf.ca.
Alds Academy, AULDS
Yes.
Academy.
Yes. At
AACF.
AACF.ca.
.ca. And that shows that you are available by email, by phone.
Yes.
Now, if they decide that, you know what? Oh, your social media accounts.
Yes, we also have socials. We are on Instagram at Alds Academy and Charity for FDN. That is AULDS ACADEMY Charity CHARITY FDN.
Yes. All right, foundation. That's a bit. Yes.
It's a lot, but
Alds Academy.
You'll find it.
Go look for Alds Academy. You'll come there. But for somebody who says, you know what, I don't know where these books are to be found. I want these children to get these books. You go buy them. How do they get cash to you then, allowing for you to make those purchases, Shernette?
So on our social media page, we do have our banking information is there, right, on our social media account. So they can deposit funds into our foundation's account, and we can use those funds to purchase the books.
Is this the last cutoff date that you'll have? So you've told us May 16, but school ends soon. Then we have school in September again. What happened if somebody said, this time is a bad time of year for me? But tell me again about the next one.
We'll take it. We will take it. Bring it
so happy you asked that question because yes, it's an ongoing thing. Even though we're giving out supplies in May, the initiative is ongoing, and so yes, persons can always come even after that date to give us the supplies or contact us.
I think it's so important to make sure that if today you looked around and you said, maybe I don't have the resources that these lovely women here have said, send what it is that you have when you have it, and they'll be able to help distribute it. Shernette All, the founder and director of Alds Academy and Charity Foundation, and Alicia Wright, accounting manager with the foundation. Thank you both very much for joining us inside the show. We've put your contact information on the screen. Those of you who heard the numbers and the email addresses read out, well, look at you. You have that information there. They're on social media as well. And their cutoff for this is next week. Is that next week, the 16th?
Yes, the 16th.
Right, the 16th of May. But anytime you have an extra book, an extra bag, an extra pencil, these are the women to reach out to. Thanks so much for joining us inside the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's our absolute pleasure. Now, we're closing off tonight's program. That was in many ways about pressure. Pressure inside our schools, pressure on our families, pressure on public systems, pressure created by fear, whether the fears of violence, of disease, or fear of instability. And one of the risks for many in our society